This is going to be a quick video talking about the new upcoming walpurgis identities that are going to be coming in the next walpurgis in like a week or so. And there's going to be two identities and one ego. The first identity being lobotomy ego, the sword sharpened with tears rodion. I'll be calling her just not as fair rodion, KOD, rodion, whatever. Well, I'll be saying the name much, but okay, let's go over her kit very fast. So first of all, the main point of this identity is that she has unique charge, which she has through her actually, let me just find it for you guys. Yeah, deep tears is a charge skill that you're gonna be getting a lot in her skills. You gain deep tears on her S1, some on her S2, and her S3 is what cashes out on that. But before we even get into that, now I know that she's a charge identity, quote unquote. She's not really synergizing with charge, but she just uses charge as a status, similar to Radish Yoshu. Radish Yoshu, if you don't remember, is an ID that has unique charge, which converts it to penitence and red eyes, which gives her bonuses that help her with the status. With Rodion, Deep Tears doesn't have a specific bonus to the status that she inflicts. Instead, it is just charge. So just think of Red Eyes Yoshi charge, but with no effects, that's going to be Deep Tears for you. So with Deep Tears, you're going to have a couple playstyles of this identity. Deep Tears is more of like a just charge that you're gonna be using for damage. Like if you look at her skills like earlier in here, she just like consumes Deep Tears or uses Deep Tears to deal more damage. Here you see consume Deep Tears to deal more damage. Deep Tears consume more to get more damage. Its target even regain half, even more damage, right? Here you have the other skills, which I'll get into later, but just know this is a different variation of the skill 1, skill 2, and skill 3. This is going to be giving you Deep Tears. This is going to be consuming you Deep Tears. This is going to be consuming Deep Tears. So if you haven't noticed already, Deep Tears is mostly just there to deal more damage. It is not relevant to the other niche parts of her kit and what makes her unique and what her gimmick is. It is mostly just for damage, consumption, and stuff like that. There is no such thing as charge potency for this identity. There is no charge potency, meaning that you're not consuming Deep Tears to gain an additional effect. It is just for damage conditionals. So with that out of the way, let's talk about her actual gimmick. So her main gimmick lies in her counters. These two clashable counters and clashable guards are, in my opinion, the exact same. They function differently as in the base skill like counter and guard, of course, but the main thing they do is give you Deep Tears and they give you Tear Sharpened. The shield one gives you shield, the counter one just deals damage, whatever, right? What you gain is Tear Sharpened, which is not found in any of her other kit. So Tear Sharpened is an effect where if you look here, turns out you gain Deep Tears and you lose SP every single turn based on the stack. Why is this relevant? If you look at her skills here, turn start at 0 or higher SP, gain Blessing, which is basically just there to inflict sinking, and that's it. And you have Despair on the other hand, which is the exact same thing, except other than just sinking potency, instead inflicts sinking count instead of just sinking potency. But the general effects are the exact same. With Despair or Blessing, remember at 0 higher SP, at 0 SP, gain Despair. Just remember that specific line of text. If you look previously, she has two different skill slots, right? This one is positive, this one is negative. And if you're at 0 or less SP, if you're at 0 or higher SP, that's a very important distinction. If you're at 0 or higher SP, she has this part of her kit unlocked. And if you're at the 0 or lower SP, you have this part of her kit unlocked. So similar to Manager Dawn with her enhances, but instead of just having like huge conditionals for it, it's just SP. So if you can connect this already, Tear Sharpened, losing SP every single turn, is going to allow you to get into the Despair state. I like to call it that. The Despair state for Rodion, which is going to give you different bonuses, letting you access to her other skills. And I'll talk about the specific skill correlations with her other kit later. But just so you know, she has SP mechanics that change her skills, etc, etc. So with that out of the way, let's talk about more parts of the kit. So when you have the Blessing or Despair, you gain statuses that basically just give you bonuses. This is just like a minor part of the kit, but she gains bonuses. With Blessing, right? Blessing gives you Protecting Sword for every XP, and Protecting Sword basically just gives you defense level up and aggro. That's it. You have a max stack of 5 of it, and you gain more faster if you have more SP. Simple stuff. So you're going to be mainly getting this if you don't have Tear Sharpened, because Tear Sharpened does drain your SP. It's going to be a bit harder to gain that SP bonuses if you have Tear Sharpened. So I'll talk about the strategy with her later, but that's the gist of it. Next, you have Piercing Sword, which is what you gain with Despair. Same exact effects as the other previous one. You gain it faster if you have. You gain faster if you have even less SP in this case. And what's unique about this is that you actually gain negative aggro, which is something we've never seen before. Negative aggro basically just means you have even less of a chance to get targeted. And just this, by the following range, 0, 2x, 2, 1. So it's going to be, you're still going to be able to be targeted, but it's going to be reduced in like decimals. If I had to guess how this works, 9 negative aggro would be a 0.1. So your vote in the bag that enemies take to target people are going to be reduced to like decimals. So cool stuff. Next up here, I just want to mention this real quick. While in Blessing state, take less damage from attacks. While in Blessing state, take less HP damage from attacks. Again, this is emphasizing the tank playstyle of her highest speedness. She gains protection and clash power up. Despair state deals more damage and deals more damage up and power up. And both of these effects are more powered in the max stack. So if you are consistently at an SP range, this ID gets stronger. Simple stuff. So, how does this tie into our game plan? We talked about Tear Sharpened. Actually, I should get this out of the way first. If this unit has Piercing Sword, you're fighting an enemy with a basic attack skill. Consume Piercing Sword to inflict sinking. Simple stuff, honestly. It's just like consuming this. You're just consuming this to inflict more sinking after you use a base attack skill. And that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is it before? Actually, wait. I need to, because I kind of like glossed over this because it's like really minor. This top text here. Before this turn's final basic attack skills hit. Okay. No, it's fine. So basically, if you have Piercing Sword, which is her Despair state status that she gets, you inflict sinking before you do your attack, and if you have the actual max stack of Piercing Sword, you consume it all to inflict sinking potency. And again, the Despair state actually inflicts a lot more sinking count. You saw here earlier with when Clash ends inflicts sinking count, on hit with base attacks to inflict sinking count, so that's going to be useful with the potency that you gain from this effect. So, I mentioned earlier the tie-in with her other status, Tear Sharpened, and Tear Sharpened gives you more deep tiers, which is a different thing. Deep tiers giving you more damage conditional, so already you're getting more ways to deal more damage. But with deep tiers, because you're losing SP on every single round end, I mentioned earlier how she's losing SP at every turn end with Tear Sharpened, and Tear Sharpened is going to allow you to enter that Despair state a lot easier. And why does that matter? In my opinion, I think the strategy for this I think we've gone over most of her kit, but we're just talking about her skills now. Her skills, not much to talk about here, but the things I want to point out in here is that she inflicts sinking count a lot more. You see sinking count here, you see sinking count here, which is a lot more sinking count, and there's already the base sinking count you inflict with her passive, so that's cool. Nothing else much to talk about there. Her other skills are pretty normal. The one thing I want to take note of is that she is constantly losing SP here. And if you're wondering, oh, what if I lose too much SP, negative 45 SP, and I corrode? Well, lucky for you, this ID doesn't actually corrode at all. You have this unit SP does not drop below negative 40 by her own effects, but she still drops if the enemy has like sinking. But the thing is, she has like a pre-trigger type of effect. Pre-trigger type of effect as a pre-trigger slash BL Mirasol type of effect. Which, if you don't know what that is that she doesn't drop, those IDs doesn't drop below 1 HP. Well, now we have that in the form of SP now, with Rodion stopping the SP loss at negative 44. So if you have 5 sinking on Rodion, if you're at negative 40 SP and you get hit, it's going to be stuck on 44 SP for that turn specifically for one spring counter. So she is unable to get to very low SPs by blind obsession. Blind obsession as in the abnormality when they use the big skill. So cool stuff. She's still not gonna tank it, but you understand what I mean. And we talked about most of her kit already. Basically, actually I'll summarize it later. I'll just talk about her actual kit now. So why you want to get tier sharpen? By the way, tier sharpen, the only way you can get this is by the guards. So her game plan is if you have tier sharpened, you get a lot of additional effects here, and the main payout you get for having despair instead is her S3. S3 a lot of damage conditionals, and you actually reuse your coin if you consume tier sharpened. Consume tier sharpened, but this skill doesn't consume tier sharpened at base. Well, we talked about this earlier with this. Earlier, I mentioned piercing sword consuming in the despair state. Well, guess what? Tier sharpened also has that. If this has 3 tier sharpened before hitting an enemy with the final point of a basic attack skill, consume all tier sharpened inflict sinking and sinking count. So right before you actually finish the S3, right on that before that final coin, you're going to be inflicting a lot of sinking count, and then you're going to be reusing that coin. So that's the payout for this, the cash out for this identity. And once you use it, you reset to 0. You reset to 0 SP. Very important. You reset to 0 SP. And if you are in panic or ego corrosion, you just heal even more SP. So simple stuff here. Actually, this is interesting. Is this fact after reset to 0 SP? Yeah, okay, this is normal, right? When in panic or ego corrosion, recover, then heal SP. So if you're at negative 4 to 5 SP, this just resets completely. I'm actually confused at this text, because there's no way you're using S3 if you're like corroded or panicked. Okay, this text is like pretty mysterious to me. I'm wondering what that means, because this definitely isn't a part of base kit, because this is a part of this. It's part of tier sharpened. If it was a different part of a kit, it would not be included in this dot point. So I'm actually really confused on what this is, on what this means. Unless like maybe she gets hit. Maybe there's a enemy that like activates sinking without clashing or winning the clash. Okay, that's interesting. I'm wondering how that plays out later. But okay, so the game plan for this identity, at least in my opinion, with all the things we talked about. So the game plan for this identity, in my opinion, sinking really likes sinking count early, and if I said earlier, her non-despair form does not inflict a lot of sinking count. Yes, you have sinking count on her S3 here, but it is very little, and her kit doesn't inflict it at all, and her passive from I mentioned earlier does not do it at all. It is just potency. Unlike the despair form, which inflicts sinking count over here, sinking count, consuming to get sinking count with tier sharpened, and still giving you sinking potency on her skills and this passive. So her despair form actually focuses on both sinking and count. Both potency and count, different from her positive SP form, which only has sinking and barely any count. So the game plan, in my opinion, is you use tier sharpened, like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Actually, turn 1 maybe, like turn 1, turn 2. And then after that, just use counter like 3 times in a row. You gain tier sharpened, and later you're going to be losing SP at a very rapid pace. And maybe you might want to slow this down in case the enemy actually has like sinking. But in any other situation, I feel like it's a lot better to just go for this, because you can't lose SP until 45. So you're going to be stuck at 40 SP, negative 40 SP for a very, very long time, and that's going to allow you to clash and unlock a bunch of other conditionals in her kit. And with negative 40 SP, and with tier sharpened, you unlock her cash out with her Arcana Pierce here. Arcana Tier and Pierce here, which again I mentioned earlier, reusing, and with the gigantic singing count infliction, with both on her S3 and both on her passive that she consumes the tier sharpened. And then after you get to that state with the with that state, after you use a couple like S2s, you can use a couple of S1s, which is going to be usually stronger than the base positive SP skills, at least in my opinion, in terms of damage, because you actually gain bonuses from being in despair. Again, the pierce damage up, the clash power up, the final power up, all those from her passives, which is here, right? You gain damage up, power up, etc., etc. All that stuff there. So Despair form is primarily DPSing, and her non-SP form is primarily tanking. I already mentioned this earlier. So after you use a couple of your S2s, maybe your S1s, you're gonna be at like negative 40 SP, you're chilling, you're using your S1s, S2s, and then you cash out on S3, and then after you use your S3, you reset to 0. And by that point, it's probably like turn 6, turn 7, right? Turn 6, turn 7, turn 5 maybe. And at that point, you probably have like a decent enough going sinking stack, because of how much sinking count that she inflicts, and with how much sinking count Molar Ishmael inflicts, while Heathcliff inflicts. So you're probably gonna have a very functioning sinking count by that point, and you don't have much use for that sinking potency anymore. Well, if you don't need any more sinking count, you can instead just play her normally after that, because you're at 0 SP, right? And you can easily just get back by using your normal skills, clashing, and you know how much sinking provides SP heals. You've seen Solemn Lament Esau give you SP. You've seen Fluid Sac, a lot of these different mechanics that allow you to heal SP of Rodion. And after that, you can play with the tank playstyle. If you don't want that, you can just go back and use your Tear Sharpen again. And then you can cash out again. You can stay here. You can cash out again. You go back to 0, and you keep doing this again. So that's the game plan of this identity. Early, you want to use Piercing Sword most of the time. Actually, sorry, you want to get Tear Sharpen most of the time. Again, most of the time, because you want sinking count, at least in my opinion. And then you cash out in your S3 after using some S2s maybe. You cash out on your S3. You go back to 0 SP. And then you use these. You go to the tanking playstyle because you don't need sinking count anymore. And you have a very, very strong tank that has protection and aggro. And pretty okay skills anyway, with coin power, so already good clashing with both her deep tiers and the sinking for more damage. So even in tank form, this ID deals good damage. It's just her Despair form deals even more damage. So that's cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this identity. I didn't talk much about the actual specifics about this identity, like the final power up, etc. Just know this ID has a lot of like damage conditionals and clash power and final power. So that's it for this identity. I hope that was clear enough, because I definitely understand that people like wouldn't be able to understand this identity because it's a very, very text-filled identity. But I hope that explanation helped, and I hope my game plan is actually relevant later. One thing I want to point out is that we don't know how much Tear Sharpen she gets. If she gets like 2, then my calculations might be off. You know, you might not need to use it 3 times in a row. You might only need to use it like 2 times in a row, stuff like that, right? But hey, that's what every kit reveal does. You know the game plan of the identity, you don't know the specifics, like how many turns, how many statuses gets, how many count inflicts. You only know the general game plan. And for now, I think this is a good description of her game plan, and we'll be heading to the next identity that's releasing alongside Land of Despair Rodion. So, Love and Good in Name of Love and Hate Don Quixote, I'll just call her Queen of Hatred Don Quixote. That doesn't work, right? I'll just say Queen of Hatred Don Quixote. Again, I wouldn't be saying her name much. I repeated my same mistake again. Whatever, man. So, similar status to Rodion and Red Eyes Yoshu, as in she has unique charge. Let's just look at her passive first, actually, because I think it explains her kit a lot more. But just know, like, just right now, her positive ones, right? She gains charge, she consumes charge for damage, she gains charge, she inflicts a status, Mark of Villainy, I'll talk about it later. And then she has charge-based scaling here, and she gets Magical Arcana. So, and then the rest of her kit is pretty bare bones. The interesting stuff gets over here. So, her kit in passive, her guard doesn't matter, by the way. Her guard doesn't matter, so we don't need to talk about that. It's clashable guard, but it doesn't really matter. So, Love and Hate. Love and Hate is just charge. Similar to Rodion, it doesn't provide any additional effects. It is just for damage and final power and coin power and stuff like that. So we don't have to talk about that much. Again, we'll be putting on a sideline just like Rodion. We're going to be talking about that much because it is just damage conditionals, and that's why important to talk about the kit until release. Because when you're having kit reveals, damage conditionals don't really matter. I mean, you can guess like it's good, but when you're having like small effects, like oh, consume this to gain this much damage, it doesn't matter to speculate during the kit reveals. You should just gloss over it because it's more important to talk about the main part of the main game plan instead of like the actual detail effects. Sorry. So onward to the rest of her kit. I think the passive that actually I'll just get this out of the way. Mark of Villainy is take more damage from Don Quixote. That's it. Yeah, that's literally it. You just take more damage from Don Quixote. I'm guessing it's like 20% more damage, 10% more damage, somewhere around that. That's it. That's literally it. We can ignore that for the rest of the discussion. So, first of all, she gains love and hate. Okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, she gains love and hate at a certain threshold where you consume love and hate. So, okay, more damage right there. Sure, whatever. Okay, here's the interesting stuff where it gets. In counter-start, this unit does not have hysteria, gain hysteria, and counter-start, this unit does not have love and hate, gain love and hate. The most important thing I want to talk about here is to underline this line. This line doesn't really matter because you're gonna be gaining love and hate anyway. And hysteria. Hysteria is basically you gain more stacks when you are at lower SP, and we'll see how that catches out later. This is actually very similar to tier sharpened with Rodion where you gain it, but this is like more passive because at turn N, I like the dot by the way. You don't see this anywhere. You just have like an ominous dot. But at 0 higher SP, you lose 1 stack. At less than 0 SP, you gain 1 stack. Important thing to note, base stack is 0. Base stack is 0, meaning similarly to ammo, it does not go below 0 at all, and you still keep it even if you're at 0 because you can still regain it. So I was actually confused by this because I was like, hysteria, but you're gonna lose 1 stack anyway. It's gonna be gone completely, and none of her kit gives her hysteria back. I'm confused. Turns out it's base stack 0. Base stack 0. Again, base stack 0. So it's gonna be permanently there, even though it's not gonna be active. It's still gonna be permanently there, and you can still get it anytime you want after you fulfill the conditionals. So the point of this identity, okay, we can talk about hysteria later. I think the most important thing to talk about is magical arcana. So her passive is combat start, gain magical arcana. She does more damage for love and hate as well, but gain magical arcana minimum 1. So and the max stack is 3. So in 3 turns minimum after you get her passive online, you get magical arcana max stack. And what magical arcana does is at X stack, which I will assume is probably 3. Or, yeah, probably 3, at least in my opinion. Because if it was 2, it'd be a very, very, very clunky, at least in my opinion. So you gain this. And basically, at this certain threshold, and you change your SP to a certain amount. If you had to ask me, this Y is probably negative. Like, this is probably like -5 or -10. Or higher SP, change SP to -10. Because the whole thing about this identity is you want to have low SP after you get magical arcana because you gain access to stronger skills. And if this isn't negative, other than I'm gonna feel really ashamed, the ID's kit is gonna be really clunky because there's no way of losing SP on this kit. Like if you look previously, right? Where do you lose SP on her base skills? You don't. You just don't. So you either spend your ego, to get low SP, and that's the only way you gain SP loss. So I'm gonna be making a logical assumption that this YSP is negative. Okay, keep that in mind. So magical arcana, she gains it every single turn. Another way she gains it is by her S3. Magical arcana, right? So after you get magical arcana, you're gonna be at a certain threshold. You're gonna be at negative SP. Negative SP, you unlock another part of the kit. Now she's regressive transformation reversed. I forgot to mention this, but base stacks will see more damage for every love and hate by himself. Whatever. So similarly to Rodion, she has 2 different parts of her kit. One of her kit is the positive SP one. This is the negative SP one. And in the negative SP one, you unlock it after you're at less than 0 SP. At less than 0 SP, gain regressive transformation and lose. Here comes Magical Girl. So, and similar to Rodion, just something I want to point out, this unit SP cannot drop below X due to SP loss effects from this unit's base attack skills. So similar to Rodion, but unlike Rodion, she doesn't have a specific SP loss spot. I would assume it would probably be like 40, 35 maybe. Maybe even 44, like, wow. But that's just my opinion. I feel like they wouldn't specify it because for Rodion, right, you have an additional effect that prevents you from going below 44. If it's like this, I'd assume it's like 30. 30 or 30, 40 or 44. Like it's either of those three. But the point is she can't lose SP to the fact that she corrodes, similar to Rodion. And with her negative skills, she basically just does more damage. She gains more base power, which is better for negative coins, of course. Base power, even more base power. Same charge thingies. Instead of rupture, she inflicts sinking, but the statuses don't matter for this identity because she is a fake status identity. She does not have real statuses. She does not play into any of the statuses. She does not scale off of any of the statuses. Like even in Reliance Yoshi, even though she has like a really lackluster bleed count, at the very least she's scaled off of bleed count. So you can actually still justify running her because she actually gets stronger in bleed. Queen of Asia Don Quixote doesn't actually get stronger in sinking or rupture because she just scales off of herself. So don't go around thinking this is a sinking or rupture identity. This ID belongs in neither. Okay, I can't stress enough. This ID belongs in neither. This ID does not inflict any count for both the statuses. This is a fakey. Okay, so her S2, same thing. Inflict microfilny, gain more level hit. The most important part, similar to Rodion, is actually no, attack weight. Yeah, very cool, attack weight. At a certain amount of hysteria, like after a few turns where you are in low SP, again, hysteria you gain more every turn you are at low SP. So at some point after you get to low SP, after you get to enough magical arcana and you reset down to this negative SP, you unlock this, right? After a certain amount of turns, you gain access to the attack weight conditional, and her S2 is going to be pretty cool for that. So yeah, just attack weight after a certain amount of hysteria. By the way, hysteria doesn't get lost at all once you're at this state because it's going to be max attack tree, so it's going to be chilling right there. So permanently, you're going to have attack skill that has attack weight. So yeah. And once you have enough, you can choose to cash out on your S3. A lot of text on here, but the most important thing is if this unit consumes X hysteria, you gain attack weight, and you consume all hysteria for clash power up, and that's pretty much it. You deal more damage for charge, and you consume all magical arcana on stuff, which by the way you still gain every single turn. So most likely you want more magical arcana. Okay, so once you get to negative SP, you're gonna have to wait a while. You're gonna be using your S1 and S2, right? Because your S1 and S2 lose you SP, so you're gonna get into a better SP position in the first place, like negative coin ID, because you're gonna be inflicting more damage and more clash if you're at negative SP. And you're gonna be waiting a while of that, and then you cash out on your S3 right after you have like all these conditionals with hysteria and magical arcana. You're gonna be using your S3, a lot of attack weight, and if the enemy doesn't have attack weight, well, guess what? You deal more damage to them for a single target. This is very similar to BL Mere Salt's yield my flesh. So we're very glad to see that coming back. And you lose SP, but if you are at a very low amount of SP, you actually heal SP to prevent yourself from getting too low of an SP. And that's it. After you do this, you restore your SP, and yeah, that's really it. The thing is, you might not want to get like full magical arcana. You might only want to get 2, because if you're at a certain amount of magical arcana threshold, you're going to be resetting your SP. But actually, you won't. Wait, am I stupid? No, you won't. Yeah, you won't. No, no, magical arcana doesn't do anything other than waste for S3. Yeah, so you just wait a few turns, you cash on your S3, and then you restore SP a little bit. But I think you're gonna be like staying in your negative form for the majority of the time, because you can't regain SP on this identity. Yeah, you don't. It's really hard to regain SP on this identity because you constantly lose SP on all her skills, and this, right? Unless this is like a lot, it's gonna be hard to get out of the negative SP range. But if she does gain a lot of SP from this, I will say that the same game plan. You use your S1, S2s, maybe some S3, accelerate the magical arcana, go back to negative with Magical Arcana, and then you redo the entire game plan like this. So, main point of this identity, use some normal skills, Magical Arcana, get the passive up and running, you go negative, use your S1s, some S2s, after some turns, you gain even more effects with Hysteria. You wait a few more turns, you have Magical Arcana and Hysteria, you can max conditionals for this. You explode on all the enemies, and then you cash out, you heal SP, and then depending on how much it heals, you are probably going to be staying here, or you'll be back to normal here, and then you'll be resetting that entire game plan. So, very simple stuff with this identity. My thoughts on the identity, I don't really like generalist identities. And yes, this identity is a generalist. This identity has no value in statuses. She's bad in every single status except maybe charge. And charge, as we all know, isn't a real fucking status. It's just not real. So, her paid place is probably going to be generalist or charge. She looks like she has a lot of damage conditionals. She seems pretty damn strong. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much else to talk about here. I talk about the whole game plan. I talk about how her kit works. So yeah, I hope that was clear enough to explain her kit. One last thing, her support passive, which whatever. Charge count of their basic attack skills. One alive the least charge count. Yeah, you just gain even more charge count. That's it. Yeah, and then if you're at 0 or higher SP, you heal, and then if you're at less than 0 SP, you gain SP. So that's cool. You just gain more charge count and some SP and heal. Actually, that reminds me, I didn't talk about this earlier, but Rodion's support passive. And then ID with low SP, they gain final power and deal more damage. So hey, if you're still use Encore Sinclair in the big 25, there's that for you. So, the last thing to talk about, her ego. Not much to talk about actually. We can speedrun this, but basically, a lot of the same effects we saw earlier here. But don't be intimidated by this. There's not much to talk about here. I just want to talk about passive first. She gains charge by consuming charge count, and that's it. Yeah, it's just the same thing. I feel like this is just for Warp Dawn, because I don't believe this identity has even has like yeah. As normal charge does to effects. Unique charge interacts the same way as normal charge does to effects that raise or reduce charge potency or count. Yeah, she gains charge potency, but there's no point in gaining charge potency because she doesn't scale off of that. Literally, she just does not. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. Oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. No, she does scale off of potency. Okay. Okay, no, I got the entire kit wrong. Well, not the entire kit, just additional bonuses. She has potency, yeah. Potency helps you stack damage on her S tree and stuff. I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, that's completely my fault. I'm sorry for that. Forgive me. This makes so much more sense now. I'm retarded. I'm stupid. This makes so much more sense. Oh, why didn't I? Okay, whatever, man. At least Rodion's like, she can't gain potency. We talked about that earlier. Whatever. Okay, so this ID gains charge potency. I'm sorry for that. This ID gains charge potency. Cool. Great. Yeah, that's great, man. Great. It doesn't really change much other than she has a lot of conditionals and she gets stronger as the fight goes on. So it's similar to every single other charge potency ID we've had with multi-crack and warp. So yeah. Forgive me for that, truly. I'm sorry. Hang me or something, man. I can't reset. Whatever, man. Moving on. So this ID doesn't change anything, but it does this because she already gains charge potency, but here base attacks doesn't consume charge count, deal more damage for every charge on self. So cool, more damage. This unit is in Lobotomy Ego in the name of Love and Hate Don Quixote. Gain additional skill tree use. So cool stuff. Additional skill tree use. That's interesting. What? Is she not able to use her S3 afterwards? I don't understand that, actually. Because none of her skills say it. Yeah, none of her skills say it. Is it? What does that even mean? I don't understand what that means, actually. Like, additional skill tree use? Because no part of her kit actually says. Like, she doesn't die after she uses it or anything. I must have skimmed that. Sorry. That doesn't mean anything. No, literally, that doesn't mean anything. Does it, like, prevent this SP heal? That doesn't make sense. No, I don't see why. That's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, no, because there's nothing in her kit that says that she dies or can't use it afterwards. Yeah, I don't understand that specific part of text. I guess we'll ignore that for now. But from the sound of it, if it is limited, that's going to be pretty huge because you're going to be able to use an additional huge nuke. So cool. But I don't know how that's going to be implemented. It doesn't say anywhere in the text. I must have read this and just ignored it because then I read QOH Dawn and it just didn't mention any of it, so it just didn't occur to me. But anyways, sorry. Anyways, talking about her ego now. So her ego basically, she inflicts magical growth count to your other allies depending on envy resonance. Again, playing into that charge game plan, because charge, as you know, lots of envy, and basically just gives you attack power and damage up. Pretty cool. Attack power and damage up, always good. And she gains attack rate based on your charge, and it gets even stronger if you are actually QOH Dawn. The only other charge ID that is W Dawn, and she's gonna have a hard time even getting this off, because I mean, yeah, you gain charge now, but at the same time, it's like, who uses W Corp Dawn in the Big 25? Let's be honest here. I'm pretty sure she's already swapped out. But anyways, you have the consume all charge count to self heal, and you heal other allies. Of course, every single good ego needs heal. Yeah, she gains heal and she gets magical arcana, and she inflicts mark of felony and just more object count if you have here comes magical growth. So if you use this 2 times in a row, hooray! You have rupture count. Fake status doesn't really matter. You gain also charge count. That's pretty much it. You have here the same exact thing except hysteria, and you actually gain attack weight if you're in regressive transformation reversed. So cool stuff. This ego is definitely playing into QOH Dawn. You deal more damage in hysteria. You do more damage in the other form because of the attack weight. And here you can see here it has inflicts count, even more fake statuses, but you gain hysteria off of this. So hysteria, similar to magical arcana, they gain every single turn. And this ego, what this ego serves to do is actually accelerate that, because even though it is turn-based, you can accelerate by 1 turn by using this, and then you're able to use your S3 immediately afterwards. So good shit. Yeah, good stuff. Let's say you're on like 1 stack, right? One hysteria stack, you want to cash out soon. You don't have to wait another turn. Guess what? On 0 stack, you can use your ego, right? You gain one hysteria on corrosion. You gain 1 hysteria. Next turn you gain 2 hysteria, and then next turn, so 1 turn you get 2, the next turn you get 3, and the next turn you can use your S3 cash out, so you get it 1 turn earlier. Unless this gives you even more hysteria. At minimum, this is 1, right? So maybe the playstyle is a little off. You can calculate that by yourself later once you get her. But the main point is it accelerates the game plan, similar to Mark of Villainy. Similar to Magical Arcana. So that's it for Queen of Hatred Dawn. To summarize, she's an ID that wants to stack up in a while, gain charge count, get charge potency, deal more damage with charge potency and charge count. At a certain point, you get Magical Arcana, which resets your SP to negative, presumably negative, because her kit would be clunky otherwise. And then you use your S1, S2. S2 gains attack weight based on Hysteria. Hysteria is an effect that you gain every single turn at a low SP. And that Hysteria allows you to cash on your S3, and with Magical Arcana, that allows you to give you even more attack weight with S3, a lot of damage conditionals, losing SP on every single one of her skills. And that's it. Thanks for watching. And I wish you very good luck for all of your walpurgis roles.